Hi, welcome back to another TerranScapes video. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the ocean board project, see how it's been coming along, and it's going to be real quick at the bench, but a lot of work has been going on in the background. And before I go any further, I just want to say, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully you find something here that is of interest or use to you, but this is going to be very confusing about how I got to this point in the project. So there is a playlist that has all the videos, I think there's 12 of them, leading up to this stage. So I'm not explaining anything about how I got here, only the new things that I've done since the last time I showed them. So before you ask any questions, you should probably stop the video here, go take a look at the playlist, then come back and join the rest of us in the present, which is actually the past by the time you see it, and it could be in the way, way back past. So who knows, whatever temporal frame you're in, you should pause and then see the temporal frames that came before this. In any case, so what have I done? Basically is I took all of the boards where the water is and I've ground them all down to be level with each other. There's often a little bit of variation depending on how well I pour the ocean resin, and then also when I put the wave casts on top, they can vary in thickness basically because of the way I made the master, and it depends on how I'm cutting them. And it's not the easiest, but it's not the end of the world. So I've brought them all level, did a little resculpting work on them, and I'll show you some of that. And then I tested putting the clear coating on it, which is polyoptic. I'm using polyoptic 1411, and I'm not talking about it any more than to say I did a little test. I struggled a little bit with it. I think I got it fixed. And I'm going to do a review on polyoptic 1411 right after this video. So no questions on the actual clear resin, but I just wanted to show you the effect that it gave so you can get a sense. Some people have been asking me, are you going to apply a glossy layer? Is that the way they're going to look? So I'm going to show that to you as well. So plenty of jabbering. Let's get to the bench and I'll show you what I've done. So here you can see two of the corners put together. And basically what I really just want to show at this point is the shorelines have been put in, and you'll notice this one is a lot shallower. This was the intended shoreline that I wanted for all the boards, so that I could have the waves really breaking right against the cliff. And what happened is because of the way I cut them and mounted them, I ended up building up a little bit more of a shoreline. I think in some areas I got a little carried away. So when I poured the water, it didn't really quite cover them up as high as I had hoped. But it's a short enough transition that I can break those waves really quickly, and that's my goal. And if you notice over here, we have all of the the waves casts have been installed, and you can see this very short transition that I've left open, and that's because I'm going to have the waves break really, really close with mostly like a splashing effect along the edge of the rocks. And here you can see the beach, and one of the challenges with the beach is that when I cut this pathway and I pulled out, and you have to imagine I'm pulling out this cast piece and then installing the walkway, so to speak, it just left a very sort of hanging area, so I had to lift the beach up quite a ways. It doesn't look bad, but it was more beach than I expected in the long run. And lastly, to talk about this shot is to just say, of course, now that I've flocked them, we have, just a lot more life breathed into them, literally and figuratively. And adding that flock just really ties the whole image together. And I'm really pleased with how that looked. And once I flocked them, it just really stood out and looked so much more closer to the finished look. So, just before we leave the update, I just want to talk about the boards themselves and show you some of that grind work I've been doing in my polyoptic test. So I wanted to just give you a look at, of course, a segment of the ocean boards, the open water boards, just because it highlights a few of the things that I have been working on. In fact, I'm going to turn this here, make sure I try to stay in frame. And there's quite a bit of light being thrown on this, so it's a little glary. So I'm going to try, so it may go out of focus to try to show you some things. But You know, what you see in here is me carving in a little bit of detail. The reason this is glossy is that there was probably, I can't remember exactly, probably a hole somewhere in the sheet of waves, and the Envirotex bubbled up through it. So what that did is it really obscured a lot of the detail, and before I do the final coating, I want some of that to come back through. So I just went in with the Dremel and just gouged out some of the similar patterns to the waves that are elsewhere on the board. And then, let's see here. Oh. Let's see, I think that's good. So then, because this was sitting high here, I had to, actually this corner is a little bit better here. There we go. I had to go in and really take down these edges, and then, you know, sort of put in again some of that little texture to reconnect it to the rest. And you can see here that there was also some Envirotex that had bubbled over. So what I was concerned most with was whether the coating would make those textural lines blend in well enough that I've carved in, and it came out great, actually. I feel really good about that. Let's see if I can give you a little angle look on that, give you a little sense. There we go. Right, so really you don't see those areas that I have altered showing up at all, so I feel really positive about that. The other thing is that this is a test area for the polyoptic review coming on that next, and the thing that alarmed me is that it had been in storage for a while and had absorbed some moisture, so I was concerned about whether it would set up properly. So I did a small area here, and I did another test board that I'll show in the review, and it looked fine, but it took a long time for this to cure. It takes longer with thinner layers, but I mean, this took a while, and I had a warm lamp over it all night, and it was just set in the morning. So I think that was partly because of the moisture in it, and I've got a fix for that, so and that we'll talk about in the review. So overall, though, felt pretty positive, and I don't know if it's going to come into this shot, and if it doesn't, I'm not adjusting the camera angle for it. So I'll just wiggle it around and we'll see when I edit. But the nice thing about this is, you know, when you coat this, all those layers come right through. So along the shore, all of that seaweed that I've put under is going to come right through. But it even shows the small bubbles that were in the Envirotex as the layers were built up. So it makes me think if I ever did this kind of a project again, that I'd actually degas the Envirotex before I use it to just make sure it's 100% bubble free, because you know, it looks fine. It looks fine, don't get me wrong, but you know me, I always want those little areas. What can I do better next time? And that might be one of them. So anyway, that gives you a real good close-up of what has been going on behind the scenes. Doing all of this work took several hours for all of the boards, but now that it's done, they're all ready for their polyoptic coating. The cliffs are the last bit to get wave texture on, and believe it or not, I can't believe I'm saying this, it's really almost done. So stick around, I'll wrap this up, and hopefully you'll come back to see the progress on this in the next video. So that gives you a look at the work that has been done. Right now, I have been in a bit of a reassessment of how I'm managing my time. My very good friend, I don't know if I've mentioned any of this. Time is always an issue with me, right? So I've probably mentioned it before, but I've been looking at how many hours I'm spending in different areas, and I'm charting it all, and it's been very illuminating. So I am making a shift to actually working more hours per week. I am trying on the actual projects and less time, hopefully, on other things. So when I'm way behind on comments, that's why. I will get to all the questions, but it does mean that I may not be replying to all the comments, especially old ones that are on older videos, unless there's a question posed. I do look at them all, because I want to make sure if there's a question, and I appreciate them all, but I'm going to try really hard to scale back on my responses in terms of length and if it's not a question. So I care and I'm watching, but I am trying to manage. And that is maybe if you've emailed me, that's why there's a delay. Sometimes I'm like, I'll check emails on Tuesday or something like that. So I'm trying to balance a lot of things and trying to find the medium that works best. So if you see hiccups or something like that, or there's delays between videos, and you know, that's why. So, you know, when funds get a little light because I've been working on a project too long, I just want to extend a thank you to my patrons because they have helped to support me in still improving my gear for my video. I have a new monitor right now that I can now see what's going on, and it lets me know when I'm clipping. 5 minutes ago, I was like, what is all this buzzing? What is this buzzing? The monitor, when I clip, it buzzes, it lets me know. I love it. I love this thing. I can see how long the video's been running. I can see what all the settings are. I can see the volume meter, so I know. Anyway, this has been a huge, huge addition for me, for just being comfortable that I know what's going on when I'm shooting these videos. And that is a big part of my thanks to my patrons, because there's no way I could afford this without them. So anyway, there's a thank you there. And if you have questions or comments, sometimes I think I'm forgetting this is, but of course you can always leave them down below, and you'll see also the little, you know, bar, I think it is over here now, that says, you know, all the ways to contact me if you want to submit a Q&A, you want me to look at a piece of terrain, it's all right there. So hopefully you will come back and join me, because you know I will be back soon with another TerranScapes video.